As your skill with the sword improves, you will progress to a smaller circle. With each new circle, your world contracts, bringing you that much closer to your adversary, that much closer to retribution. I like that part.
The circles, right? And how the further away you are, the less skill it takes. But as your skill progresses with the sword, the circle gets smaller, and you get closer to your opponent, and you're that much closer to retribution. And the reason I brought that up in this conversation about Shakur Stevenson is because this isn't new. What we have with Shakur Stevenson is something. It's like an epidemic that's been going on in boxing for a long time. This idea that staying on the outside and away from the fire takes more skill than getting closer to your opponent and getting closer to the fire where the fight is at. This notion that an inside fighter is somehow less skillful than somebody who's on the outside is one of the biggest fallacies in boxing. And in my opinion, it's one of the things that is keeping the sport down, right? And I've seen it time and time again, dude. Like this is not something that I'm just making up that I'm hearing. Like I hear it all the time. People bringing down inside fighters, making it seem like inside fighters or fighters that fight up close and personal are less skillful than fighters that stay on the outside. This is something that's been going on in boxing and in fighting. Well, not necessarily in fighting. It's mainly a boxing problem. It's mainly a boxing fallacy. A lot of boxing connoisseurs actually that consider themselves boxing connoisseurs believe this. Believe that a fighter that stays on the outside is a lot more skillful than a fighter that stays on the inside. When we got fighters like Mike Tyson, that their whole style is based on technique and power through technique and speed and accuracy. So how can you say something like that? And even in the popular scene, people think, like the other day I was watching the documentary for Mike Tyson when he was training Francis Ngannou for his fight against Tyson Fury, which he knocked down Tyson Fury, and even though he lost, in the eyes of the public, he actually won. And Mike Tyson was training Francis Ngannou. Francis Ngannou was surprised, supposedly in his mind. He said he was surprised that, or not surprised, but he doesn't understand that people think that Mike Tyson is just power and he's just aggression and he's just like a brute. But really, there's a lot of technique that goes involved into fighting the way Mike Tyson fights. And you could go and look at that and look at all the minute details that goes into being a power puncher, being a guy that's on the inside, slipping the shots, because that's where defense comes in. When you're on the outside, defense doesn't come in. The only thing you're doing to defend yourself from there is just moving out of the way using your feet, right? Which is the first line of defense. All right. So, like when you go into a boxing gym, if the gym is well, I'm not gonna say that, but like if the gym knows what they're doing and they're trying to take you seriously and they're going with you slowly, they're gonna teach you how to use your feet first and how to stay on the outside in jab, right? And stay safe and only let go of your power shot when it's absolutely sure that you're going to connect, or when you have an exit plan after that. So it's very safe in the beginning. They keep you safe. They tell you to keep your guard up, to try to stay on the outside and stay safe. So for me, it's kind of angering to hear people say that the basics are actually the advanced stuff when it's not, bro. Like that's like the most basic fundamentals is working your jab, staying on the outside, and attacking when you're safe. It's when you start It's after the one, it's after the two and the three that you start learning how to stay on the inside. If you're gonna stay on the inside, how to exit from the inside safely. How to jam your opponent's shots. How to position your head on the inside so you don't get hit. How to bob, how to weave. That comes after that. All of that advanced stuff, that's after that. Um, and for people to say that staying on the outside is the essence of a highly technical fighter, and staying on the inside, it's like completely opposite from what the truth is, in my opinion, personally. Um, Now, of course, it also depends on the fighter, right? If the fighter has more length, then he's gonna want to stay on the outside because he has the abilities to do so. You know, and he has the physical gifts to stay on the outside. But the thing is, I think Shakur Stevenson was smaller, if I'm not mistaken, and he had less of a wingspan than the Dominican De Los Santos. In which case, that was the wrong game plan to stay on the outside, because on the outside, that's where De Los Santos wants you. Because he has a better reach. He's going to catch you with better shots. So what you got to do is you got to smother that guy. As soon as he throws a hook, you slip, you're on the inside, hit him to the body, right? And then get out through the other side, get out from behind him or something. But you weren't doing any of that. Shakur Stevenson was like, "No, I'm going to stay on the outside," it shows me that not only is he, it's like, if you can't fight on the inside, or you either can't do it or you're not willing to do it because you're scared. It's one or the other, or maybe it's just you don't have the ability. You haven't practiced how to go on the inside. Or maybe he's just like everybody else who thinks that you got to be an outside fighter to be a skillful fighter, which is not true. Look at Floyd Mayweather. Like, people compare Shakur Stevenson to Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather walk people down. Yeah, he would run. As soon as he saw signs of them either giving up mentally or physically, he'll start walking them down. And they would be the ones backing up. But I didn't see that with Shakur today. And of course, this is not the only fighter that does that. There's a lot of fighters coming up that are having this same mentality, this same thoughts that people think, outside is the way to go. Stay safe. Hit and not get hit. The same stuff. They just keep repeating the same stuff, but they don't even know what that means. Hit and not get hit. You could hit and not get hit on the inside. You could do that on the inside. There's things you could do both outside and inside. If you don't use the inside game, you're missing a part of your game plan. You're depriving yourself from possibilities and attacks that you could do from the inside. And listen, Floyd Mayweather, he did a lot of good things for the sport of boxing, but he also made a lot of these young people, a lot of these young up and comers, think a certain way is the only way, and he made them think that fighting, safe is the best way to go. But the thing about it is that people are starting to wake up to that, starting to wake up to the fact that they're not going to want to watch fights like that. They're not going to want to watch somebody, you paying somebody, right? Some of these people are paying, what, $60, $70, sometimes even $80 pay-per-view, right? They put in the money to watch a fight, and then you don't fight. Then you don't even punch the other guy, at least do something to the other guy. You just stand like 4 or 5 rounds of both of y'all just staring at each other and dancing. Like, nobody's gonna pay for that. All right, we already fell for it once. We're not gonna fall for it again. People are not gonna pay for that shit anymore, man. And listen, People were talking about Shakur versus Tank. They were talking about Shakur versus Devin Haney. They were talking about Shakur versus, whoever, Teofimo, whatever. I'm telling you right now, I hope nobody gives them that fight until he starts fighting. He starts taking risks because we're the ones paying, but he's not paying shit. He's not making it worth it for the people. Um, and Floyd Mayweather is a big influence on these kids. Whether he's talking to them now, which I'm sure he is, or just in the past, the way he used to be. But at the same time, Floyd Mayweather would have done way more than Shakur Stevenson did in this fight, even with a hurt hand. But a lot of the things that you hear, the thing is, a lot of the things that you hear the Shakur Stevenson say is things that Floyd Mayweather used to say back in the day. The only thing that he said that Mayweather would have never said is probably, if you don't like it, don't watch, or something like that. Which is something Shakur Stevenson said. But the closer you are to the enemy, the more skills you have to do, the more things you have to do. You have to cover up, you have to move your head, you have to slip, you have to dodge, weave, because that's where the danger's at. You know what I mean? And you look at the fighters from the past, man. Most of them, well, no, two of them were inside fighters from here that we see in this picture. Two of them were like inside fighters, and they knew how to get to the inside, cut the distance. And the other two, Sugar Ray Leonard and Tommy Hearns, were both outside, were considered outside fighters, but one of them, which is Tommy Hearns, died by that. Meaning he never adjusted, in my opinion. He stayed an outside fighter, and he got whooped by Hagler, who knew how to cut the distance and how to nullify that that type of fighter. But then you got Sugar Ray Leonard, then we got Sugar Ray Leonard, who actually was able to adapt better against Hagler. Even though I thought Hagler won that fight between him and Sugar Ray, but he was still able to get in the trenches there. I mean, you look at that fight, Sugar Ray Leonard was forced to fight. And guess what? He did pretty good. He held his own on the inside. He had to stay in the ropes and go at it. And the thing is, De Los Santos didn't force that. He himself didn't have that fire in him to try to force that. And the problem is this, right? Yes, I do blame De Los Santos a little bit, but at the same time, the brunt of the blame has to be on Shakur Stevenson. And the reason for that is because Shakur Stevenson is the star, and Shakur Stevenson is the one that people are going to go watch. Only the connoisseurs of boxing knew who De Los Santos was. He came back from a fight where I think he fought this one Mexican guy, and it was like a back and forth thing. But my point is that everybody was there to watch him. And in my opinion, if you're another fighter and you're watching Shakur and you're watching him perform the way he did against De Los Santos, you're not gonna want to give him that fight. Why? Because you're putting everything on the line, and not only are you putting everything on the line, but you're gonna be in the fight doing everything. And Shakur Stevenson is just gonna hang back and wait for a mistake, which is like the worst type of person, in my opinion, that you want to do business with, right? And it reminds me of, Duran versus Leonard, the second one, right? Duran versus Leonard, where Leonard wasn't fighting that in that second one. He was just moving around and selling it to the crowd, which is a trick that fighters like this do. they try to sell it to the crowd that they're doing something more than they're actually doing. So what they do is they throw a flurry. Most of those are gonna miss, but if he manages to barely touch you once in like the nose or something with the tip of the glove, they're gonna act like that's a bigger deal, and they're gonna raise their hand. They're gonna be like, "Woo, I hit him!" Or if they make you miss, right, and they're just jumping back like the way Shakur Stevenson does, and they raise their hands and they're like, "Yeah, I made a miss," and the crowd, they're like, "Yeah, woo!" So they're selling their movements rather than actually doing something in the ring. And so Duran saw this, right? He saw that the people were backing up this bullshit, and he was like, I ain't doing this anymore. This ain't even fighting no more. This is some bullshit. So now, of course, they say that he said no mas, but other people say that he didn't even say no mas. That he just said, he just said that he didn't want to do this. This wasn't fighting, and it was the truth that it wasn't fighting. It was just people were there to see the revenge of Sugar Ray Leonard, and they were gonna give him the fight as long as he stayed safe from this guy. And that's what a lot of people are doing now against these type of fighters, these type of brawlers, and not just brawlers, but just people that actually know how to fight on the inside, that actually know how to fight, and stay in that square circle and bang, and they're staying out of that circle, right, in the safe zone, and they're banking that the ref, that the judges are going to give them the fight. That, in my opinion, is one of the many reasons that boxing is dying, and it's one of the many fallacies that people believe nowadays, and that it's hurting boxing. By the way, if anybody could find me this medallion, it would be awesome. I'm trying to look for one. I think I found one, but I think they're selling it for $150, and I'm like, that's way too much. I think this one is pretty cool. It's from the movie Zorro, The Mask of Zorro. But anyways, guys, that is going to be it for today. If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch you guys on the next one.
I like that part.